The internet has changed so much in just a few amount of years, if you think about it.
And of course, you've heard of Silicon Valley. Well, SoCal now has its own high-tech industry dubbed Silicon Beach.
That's amazing. You know, it's ground zero, if you think about it, for what is a relatively new Southern California business hub. And of course, Studio SoCal's own reporter, David Nazar, is here with the 411 to explain it all. What does this mean, Silicon Beach?
You know, it's funny because you mentioned ground zero. So when we think of Los Angeles, ground zero for what, a century, or at least decades, has been Hollywood, the movie industry. But things are beginning to change because parts of Los Angeles are beginning to look like Vegas as all of these high-rolling investors try to take a gamble and roll the dice in the high-tech industry. In hip and trendy LA, it's probably not a good idea to be a self-proclaimed geek. Nevertheless, Jake Newberg is proud to call himself a 30-something tech nerd. This former UCLA Business School alum and academic tutor starts his day by donning the helmet, arming himself with his iPhone, and hopping on his bike. Newberg cycles along the beach from his home in Pacific Palisades to his office in Santa Monica on the 3rd Street Promenade. Newberg is part of an entrepreneurial creation taking shape in Southern California. He's one of hundreds of high-tech internet company founders who've found their way into Los Angeles to be part of an industry known as Silicon Beach, a world where CEOs and venture capitalists are all gambling to strike it rich, hoping to land the next Facebook or Google. Silicon Beach encompasses an area from Santa Barbara to Santa Monica to San Clemente, with the focal point in and around the 3rd Street Promenade. Newberg's company, Revolution Prep, provides online tutoring to middle school and high school students worldwide. Newberg employs over 100 folks at his office, people mostly in their 20s. If you're in your 30s around here, well, you might be considered a senior citizen. This area near the Santa Monica Pier has become famous for incubating its multi-million-dollar high-tech startups. Companies like Snapchat.com, which is a mobile app for text messaging. The unique thing here, the messages disappear. They're not permanent. Beats.com, which specializes in headphone technology, and RiotGames.com, video gaming technology famous for League of Legends. And while there are a gamut of tech companies out here, including the popular and widely used apparel and e-commerce websites, Newberg, along with the co-founder, tried to corner the market on education.
Education, if you look at it, is one of the biggest sectors out there, right? You could talk about transportation, you could talk about medicine. Education is a huge space that is ripe for innovation. With the online tutoring, you can get a tutor who's the absolute best fit for your child, even if they live in Brooklyn and your kid lives in Santa Monica or Saudi Arabia.
Newberg's business model is like a majority of the tech companies in Silicon Beach. They either get their money from investors, they generate revenue directly from the customer who's paying for the service, or they make money off of advertising on the site. What do you eventually hope to gain with your company? Do you want to sell it for a few $100 million? What do you want to do with it?
Yeah, our goal really is to be the largest provider of the highest quality tutoring nationwide. That's our goal. The reality of it is when we took venture capital, if you take venture capital, they eventually want to have an exit. So they'll need to get an exit, whether we refinance them with another investor or we sell the entire company.
I don't mean to be rude, but are you willing to tell me what your company is worth?
It depends who you ask. You know, if you ask the two founders, we'd probably say it's worth $100 million. If you talk to an investor, they'd probably say it's worth 50. The truth is probably somewhere in between.
As the economy recovers, it's being led in part by the high-tech sector. And while most folks know of Silicon Valley in the San Francisco Bay Area, out here in the Santa Monica, Venice area of Los Angeles, Silicon Beach has added about 1,000 new companies in just the last few years.
Over the past few years, over $1 billion has been invested in Silicon Beach companies just within the 5-mile radius around here.
Dave Travers is a venture capitalist here in Silicon Beach. He and his partners have invested tens of millions of dollars into various startups in the area, and they've made millions more because his company invested when the tech companies were just starting out and desperately needed money. Travers says these internet businesses are increasing the SoCal workforce and infusing LA with much needed dollars in this financially challenged city.
They are employing over 10,000 employees with high quality, high paying jobs in software engineering and elsewhere. And they are really now getting to the point, a lot of these companies, where they can fund themselves. They've gone public, they're profitable.
So in the next decade, do you see Silicon Beach booming even more or possibly fizzling out?
I think all the early indicators of what will happen in the future point to even bigger success.